After another day of hail, is it time we all get a bouncy house to protect our cars? Denver Public Schools is out with a new draft for next year's safety plan, and it keeps the school board, not principals, in control of deciding whether or not school resource officers come back.
Where our meter is supposed to be, this is currently what we have.
Not having an electric meter is not the most unusual part of this story, and why remembering this weekend for what it is can be the good news we all need. Next. Have you picked out a favorite tree yet? One to pull over and try to protect your car from the hail? Another afternoon of spring storms brought hail and rain across the metro area. We should be getting used to all this rain by now. This month has been one of Denver's wettest Mays ever. And like we've seen throughout the month, these sparked serious lightning and, of course, that pesky hail. It honestly makes this inflatable car protector seem less funny and more like a good investment. Parker Evans sent this video from Weld County, which was under both a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning this afternoon. So why not put the car under an inflatable? Danielle Grant is still watching for severe weather tonight. People living where should be buying that car bounce house right now?
I mean, the Front Range, the Eastern Plains, really anywhere across Colorado, because we're not only looking at storms, Marshall, this afternoon into this evening, but really throughout the rest of the month and even into June. It's going to be a rinse, lather, repeat kind of situation. And tonight on the radar, it's quite active. Luckily, the urban corridor starting to see all those thunderstorms wind down. Just on the lightning tracker, more than 670 strikes in about 15 minutes time. Most of those across I-76. Fort Morgan just getting walloped with heavy rain. We have a severe thunderstorm warning in place. Logan, Morgan, and parts of Washington counties until about 6:30. Some heavy rain, a lot of lightning, and plus quarter-size hail, all a part of that cell. This one just to the south across Highway 287 from Kit Carson to Lyman, getting a good dose of some wet weather. The severe thunderstorm watch will continue until 9 o'clock tonight. Again, the biggest threats for us, what we've already seen, the hail and the strong winds. So many of you capturing the hail reports for us and reporting them back. It has been quite the day, and unfortunately, I'm tracking more storms that are going to be moving in for the holiday weekend. We'll go over the timing, Marshall, coming up in about 10 minutes.
Thanks, Danielle. Denver Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Alex Marrero released a new draft of his proposed safety plan today based on feedback from DPS parents, students, and staff. The latest draft hints at no change in one major area. Instead of letting individual middle and high schools decide whether or not to allow armed Denver police officers back on campus, it would be the school board that would make a district-wide decision on those SROs. A previous draft would have given schools that power. But the district would let individual schools decide whether or not to implement a new weapon detection system. No immediate changes to the controversial discipline matrix, which allows students charged with violent crimes, including attempted murder, to come back to class. The district also highlighted some community asks that didn't make it into the proposal, like a request from the teachers union for smaller class sizes. The district will see public feedback on this second draft until June 12th, and that includes telephone town halls and a survey. The safety plan is expected to be finalized sometime late next month. Let me grab my prop here. This is a smart meter. I didn't steal it, I promise. It's the kind that Xcel Energy has already or will be putting on your home. It allows the company to remotely read your meter. It also allows the company to charge you for your electricity usage based on the time of day that you use it. On Wednesday, I held this up as a prop, and it caused my aunt and uncle to realize this is not on their home. Good thing their nephew is in the news business and makes house calls.
Where our meter is supposed to be, this is currently what we have.
Well, that's unusual. I mean, yeah, seeing a home without a meter. But what's unusual is me interviewing Rick Nagrian.
We did not have a smart meter.
Or as I like to call him, Uncle Rick. On Wednesday, we talked with an Xcel customer who was without a meter on her home for a short time last summer. That's when my uncle and aunt sent me a photo of their meterless home. Then they looked at their bills and saw something they had never noticed. They have been billed for estimated usage, not actual usage, since July.
If people are receiving estimates, they should be directly notified of that fact, and the individual can move forward paying the exact amount that they should be paying for their electricity usage.
When he called Xcel, my uncle said he was told of a problem he never knew before, that the meter block, the thing the meter plugs into, is damaged, and he's responsible for fixing it. He said the Xcel representative on the phone told him he was notified about this in December 2021.
They mentioned that perhaps a notice was put on our doorknob, and it could be that the wind had blown it off.
But a close look at his bill shows that even if something was left on his door in December 2021, he was still paying actual usage, meaning the meter was working until July, when it became an estimate. Even though my uncle has a nephew in the news, he wants better communication, like the kind companies used to do in the 80s.
Written correspondence through either an email or a letter.
Questions I emailed Xcel. How long are you allowed to be on estimated use instead of actual use? I did not get an answer to that, but a spokeswoman said estimates are figured out by looking at the same month over previous years. Xcel said the crew at my uncle's home followed standard procedure and left the door hanger, but the company did not answer what type of follow-up should happen or does happen, if any. Lastly, the company said it would be repairing the meter block at my uncle's for no cost, to which I ask again, what happens for people who don't have nephews who are news reporters? We're getting some feedback. Claudia watched our story yesterday about the guy in Superior who was paying for his neighbor's gas usage for 16 years. Well, she lives in the same townhome complex and wants to know how to make sure she's paying for the correct meter. Claudia, you uncovered a gap in my story from yesterday. Austin, who lives in a townhome, discovered no matter what he did to conserve, his bill never went down. Then he found out the meter number assigned to his bill was not the same as the meter providing gas to his home. To make sure the gas meter on your bill matches the gas meter on your home, look at the natural gas page of your bill. This one is redacted, but yours would have your address, a premises number, and invoice number. But the ID you need to match is the one that shows up here next to meter. Then go outside and look for that same number or letter and number on the meter itself. For electricity, you need to look at the electricity portion of your bill, which has its own meter number, and then go outside and compare it to your electric meter. On the new smart meters, that meter number appears here. When I came back from paternity leave in January, I set out to do a story helping us all understand, what do we pay Xcel for? We were all getting jaw-dropping bills. What do all the line items on our bill mean, and why are they there? That was it. I was going to move on after those two stories. But you wouldn't let me. You had more questions. You needed answers. And based on the feedback from more than 30 stories now, you're getting more understanding and, in some cases, more resolution of your utility bill from our stories. I cannot keep up with the number of emails you have sent me with issues I had never thought of and issues your neighbor may also be experiencing. I will try to get to them. Not to pick on Xcel, but to excel in responding to you. The FDA is considering a first, an over-the-counter birth control option to help people who don't have easy access to a doctor. Our Angeline McCall spoke with a professor who studies access to reproductive medical care, who says this is long overdue.
First heard that the FDA is considering the first over-the-counter birth control option.
Finally, like literally my reaction was, it's about time.
Amanda Stevenson is an associate professor at CU Boulder. Her work revolves around reproductive health.
Tell me a little bit about, the positives that you see in this, and then if there are any negatives as well.
First pro is that a substantial number of Americans have trouble accessing the method of contraception that they would prefer to be using. Anyone who's been sick in the last 3 years knows that getting an appointment is challenging. And so if your life is hard already, so if you're low income, if you work multiple jobs, if you're, just have trouble accessing the healthcare system because of other barriers, race, ethnicity, language, and so forth, then not having to go to a doctor removes a huge step in the process of getting oral contraception.
Besides the positives that you see, what are some of the negatives that you see?
Honestly, I don't see negatives. So we know this is a safe drug. My primary concern is whether it's covered by insurance. So in the United States, health insurance doesn't cover over-the-counter drugs like Tylenol, Band-Aids, things like that. And so there are strategies by which this may be able to be covered by health insurance. And if those are not implemented, then this won't actually improve access for most people because they would have to pay out of pocket.
Stevenson hopes the FDA approves what will be a first of its kind and something that's already available in other countries.
People are experts in their own lives. And when they get to choose when to have children, then their lives are better.
Some critics oppose this over-the-counter option because they fear people won't read the directions or label correctly or take it with a condition that they're not supposed to.
Just think of all the things we take for granted by going to the store and getting something over the counter. Any idea from research of would this prevent people from coming to Colorado for reproductive health care that they have to come to Colorado for because they can't get it in their state?
Yeah, well, Marshall, we know that people are coming to Colorado specifically for abortions when they can't receive that kind of care in other states. Now, Amanda Stevenson told me that she thinks that it could affect a small number of people who are currently coming into Colorado. But because we know that people who are receiving abortions are also people, for instance, who are on contraception, but it fails, that it may not have the biggest impact that you might expect.
Well, we'll see what the FDA decides. Thanks, Angeline. This week, you have the opportunity to help build a lasting tribute, one fit for a hero, right here in Denver. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's Word of Thanks campaign.
Hello again from a familiar spot. There's a park on the west side of Denver, small, kind of run down, largely forgotten. Joseph Martinez Park, named after Private Joe Martinez, the first Latino to receive the Medal of Honor in World War II. He was a Coloradan. The city is about to redo and revitalize that park, and this summer there's going to be an effort to commission an artist to create a tribute to Private Martinez, the pride of that community. It's an effort that starts with us and this Memorial Day weekend Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. Since Wednesday, you've raised more than $15,000 to kickstart the fundraising for the tribute to Private Martinez. It is going to be the centerpiece of this beautiful park, along with tributes to other Latino veterans, to all who have served, and a special focus on Medal of Honor recipients. This is going to be a point of pride for West Denver, for the entire metro area. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in giving, so that the citizens of West Denver and anyone in our area can go to Private Joe Martinez Park and remember his service.
Wait, what's in our water?
How I felt finding those things was disturbed.
Front Range waterways face a big problem that's really tiny. And Memorial Day can elicit a lot of emotions. The Colorado Freedom Memorial reminds us it's okay to feel the good ones, too. Next.
What a day after those strong thunderstorms crossed the urban corridor about 2, 3 o'clock. We're now greeted to some sunshine and some fair weather clouds off in the distance. Thunderstorms still rocking and rolling off to the eastern plains. You can see as we go throughout the rest of this evening, finally by about 11 o'clock, everything moves out of Colorado. Might be left with a little bit of patchy fog here in Denver, but to kick things off tomorrow morning, some sunshine for us. Just like clockwork, here we go again. About 3, 4 o'clock, the clouds roll in. Thunderstorms primarily confined to northern Colorado tomorrow afternoon. They really blow up across I-76 into I-80 around parts of Nebraska. That's where we have that slight risk. We're seeing large hail, possibly some damaging winds, and everywhere in green, pretty much east of I-25, looking at a marginal threat. Can't rule it out, but overall it will be a lot drier. Tomorrow here in Denver, we'll touch the upper 70s and low 80s for the urban corridor, 60s up in the mountains. A brief break for us on Sunday. Looks a little drier, but the thunderstorms move back in for much of next week.
There are lots of things I don't want floating in the water. Tiny pieces of plastic definitely on that list. They're incredibly hard to clean up and can easily make their way into our food and drinking water. A group of student volunteers spent months collecting water samples at 16 different sites from across the Front Range and found these so-called microplastics in all of them.
We're here today as co-authors of this report.
My name's Lexi Kilbane. I am a second-year graduate student at the University of Denver. My main study at DU is international human rights. I think that environmental rights are human rights. There absolutely was a learning curve for me, not being a scientist and familiarizing myself with the equipment and making sure I was choosing the correct equipment was something I had to learn, and it was honestly a weeks-long process. We surveyed 16 different water bodies, and we found microplastics in all 16 of those water bodies. There needs to be a scaled-up effort, whether that's local, city, or federal. Different actions need to be taken to incentivize less plastic use and production. It's something that we should be asking for if we want to see less plastic in our environments.
The students conducted their research in partnership with Environment Colorado and the Colorado Public Interest Research Group, who see the project as a jumping-off point for more research. Colorado Freedom Memorial invites us in to remember those who gave all.
The good news this weekend is that such men and women lived who were so patriotic, who were so willing to sacrifice.
It's not our typical good news segment, but there's still plenty of good to be found. Next. Remembrance can be painful. For 10 years, the Colorado Freedom Memorial in Aurora has honored 6,200 Coloradans killed or missing in action. This week, instead of our traditional good news, the executive director of the Memorials Foundation explains why holding space for those we've lost can also do a lot of good.
I tell people that come to the Freedom Memorial, 6,200 names on the glass panels, and I tell people if you allow it, this place will get under your skin. We call it a living monument. So how can this be a happy place? How can this be good? You can come here, you can talk with the person that you can no longer have next to you here or at home. You can reminisce, you can be lost in your thoughts, you can tell God everything that makes you mad about this and everything that makes you happy about this. But here you can be that connected to Him in a more comfortable setting. It's peaceful here. You can be. Happy's not the right word. You can be comfortable being here. Veterans who served on the battlefield with these men and women who come here, who survived the battle themselves, came home wondering, why did I survive and they didn't? They come here, they're comfortable here, they feel closer connection to that person they served with. So this place offers peace, it offers memories, it offers a chance to be lost in your good thoughts about them, and for a little bit, just feel somehow connected.
Tomorrow, the Colorado Freedom Memorial will hold its 10th annual remembrance ceremony, including drill team performances, a military flyover, and laying of wreaths. The events are free and open to the public, but the site also accepts donations. Your excellent feedback next. For those wondering, why would anybody, even my uncle, have to pay for the repair of what this plugs into? An electrician told me everything on the outside of the home up until this meter is Xcel or the utility's responsibility. Beyond this, including that block it plugs into all the way inside the home, is the homeowner's responsibility. Randy tells me, I'm not picking on Xcel. They're a billion-dollar monopoly. It's called accountability, thanks to us. Daniel says, thanks for the excellent work on these stories. Keep up the good work. And Bruce says, as customers, we deserve better, honest service. It's shameful that we have to demand it. I guess if you just call in and say, my nephew Marshall says ... that might get you somewhere. We'll see you next week.